So the big component behind setting goals and visions, like we talked about, is we talked about how to set them. We talked about writing them out. We talked about sharing them out loud. I'm glad that you guys are doing that through that online link that I gave you. Another critical element of that is overcoming potential obstacles and things that might get in your way or might slow down your progress, right? Because nothing's going to stop you because you're determined and you're committed, right? But being realistic and aware of what might hold you back, what might slow you down, what might stop you is an advantage that you have, because then you can create a plan to overcome that. And one of the biggest things that I've seen just in my own journey, but now of helping hundreds of clients over the last 6.5 years or so, just through Fit Body Bootcamp alone, and then prior to that through other elements, the biggest element is our mind. And so I can give you great workouts, I can help you with the nutrition and tell you what to do, and I can get on Facebook Live, or if you're within our Fit Body Bootcamp programs, for those of you that are local, our coaches obviously do the same. They're amazing at coaching you up while you're in session, but that's a very small snippet of the entire day. And who's with you 24/7? You, of course. And so how we think to ourselves and how we talk to ourselves is incredibly important in our ability, or to the extent that we'll reach our goals and really just our full potential and live a fuller and more abundant life. So how many of you know what I'm talking about when I say stinking thinking? Thumbs up and hearts if you're with me, you get it, you understand what it's about, maybe you're challenged with that. The stinking thinking is that voice in your head that tells you that you can't, that you're not good enough, that you've tried it before, why will it work now? The stinking thinking is the voice in your head that says you've got too much going on, you're too busy, you're too tired. Thumbs up and hearts if you guys can relate with that and you know what I'm saying, right? What's some stinking thinking that might be coming to your mind? So the biggest tool is the word I'm looking for in overcoming that stinking thinking is to be proactive. Being proactive means that you become very aware and conscious of that stinking thinking. But then when you do become aware and you start catching yourself talking negatively to yourself or doubting yourself or telling yourself you can't or what have you, you need to find a way to overcome it. And the best way to do that is to proactively work on retraining our mind. And it has to be a serious conservative effort, because some of us are dealing with stinking thinking that is coming from years of negative self-tapes. And it might be words that other people spoke into our lives at one point in time, but at some point, if we're now saying them to ourselves, then we allowed ourselves to own that belief. And now that's the thought or the doubt that comes up whenever you're trying to try something new, or you're having a bad day, or you're tired, or you're stressed. So when you make the effort to write positive affirmation statements, when you make the effort to write positive statements in what you will do to accomplish your goals, then you have them on hand. They become your weapon against the stinking thinking. What do I mean? For example, write out 8 to 10 I am statements, meaning I am as if you already are who you want to be. So I am beautiful, I am strong, I am a person that makes choices that line up with my goals. I am a person that is bold enough in confident enough in my own self-being that I can say no when they're passing around the cake or the treats, or my friends are eating the greasy food at the restaurant and I'm choosing to eat healthy. Just like you guys, for those of you that did fill out that goal sheet, the reason I asked that is it's a tool that I used in my own transformation 15 years ago. I literally wrote out these I am statements. For me, I'm a big person and my faith is critical to me. And so it was a combination of I am statements and Bible verses. And I literally, at that time, was in such a place in my life that I wrote them out on just instinctively wrote them out on 4x5 cards and literally carried them with me. So I don't care if I was having a bad moment and it was in the middle of a grocery store, I'd pull out my 4x5 cards and I would remind myself, nope, this is who you are. This is what you're doing. Because that's the type of effort that it takes sometimes. You've got to be in a place where you're really ready to really do the work. But when you do that, it pays off tenfold. Because if you, one, write out the statements, 8 to 10 statements of the I am. The I am is the feeling. The I am strong. I am beautiful. I am powerful. I am confident. I am healthy. I am fit. When you write those out and you rehearse them, literally, I know it sounds woohoo, but there's tons of research. I now know, I'm grateful that I instinctively somehow knew to do this 15 years ago, because since then I've read tons of research and books that support this exact same thing. When you speak these words over yourself, when you speak the words of affirmation, it's literally retraining your mind to get more in line with that thought process, to get on track with that belief system. Because this is why it's so critical. Your thoughts is what affects your belief system. Your belief system is actually what then affects your choices. Your choices applied consistently over time, that's what creates your habits. Your habits is what design your lifestyle. So if you want a healthy and fit lifestyle, it truly starts with your thoughts. Your thoughts then control your beliefs, but you can change your thoughts. You can change your beliefs. Even if you've battled for 20, 30 years, even if you've been maybe, some people grow up in some really harsh family environments, and maybe they didn't hear anything positive until they got into adulthood. You still can change your thoughts. You still can change your belief system. Anything is possible. It just is a matter of you having enough faith to follow through in action until your feelings catch up with those actions. But when you're practicing, when you proactively take those 8 to 10 statements and read them to yourself, even better, read them to yourself in a mirror out loud every morning. Double dip. Read them again at night. But at least read them to yourself on a consistent basis and say them with power, like Tony Robbins talks about being able to talk with emotion. And emotion emotes feeling. That creates feeling. It ties it to something. It makes it more powerful. So it's not just, I'm strong, I'm powerful, I'm beautiful, just kind of reading. It is, I am strong, I am powerful. And looking yourself in the mirror and saying those things, it sounds a little woohoo, but if you trust me and you just go through the motions, you will have that sense of confidence. You will start to believe in yourself in that way. You will start believing those statements to be true. You'll still have the moments of stinking thinking. Here I am, 15 years work in progress of really focusing on these types of aspects of health and fitness. And doesn't mean I never have a stinking thinking thought. Anytime you want to reach your very next best level of greatness or your next best version of you, that stinking thinking is going to creep in. The difference between now and 15 years ago it would have taken me down. Now I catch it, recognize what it is. I'm able to talk over it, and I'm able to move past it. Does that make sense, guys? If that's making sense, love the thumbs up and the hearts. So the positive I am statements, saying them on a regular basis so that you then start becoming more mindful of the negative thoughts that might be holding you back. Another way to describe it, let me get back to this. Another way to describe it is the story, and I'll come back to that analogy in just a second. But the second piece of that is the I will. So you have all of these I ams. I am strong, I am fit, I am beautiful, I am confident. What are you going to do about it? What actions are practical that you're going to take that you can implement to become even more in that place of that person that you are becoming, that you want to be, right? What actions? It might be, I will make sure I do my meal prep, whatever your weekend is. I will get my workouts in at least 3 days a week. I will choose to have peace and choose to have clear, anxiety free, right? That is a choice too, but that's a whole nother topic. It's amazing when you realize that it is totally under your control as to whether you have peace or anxiety. It's not easy, but it is within your control. We'll talk about that another time. So the I am, the I will statement. So the second part of that is the, let me catch up real quick, Janine. It doesn't happen overnight. The more you practice positive affirmations, your stinking thinking will dissolve. So true, right, Janine? And even then, like I said, it's a journey. It is definitely, health and fitness truly is mind, body, and spirit, whatever you want to call spirit to be. Obviously for me, I believe in God, and it's a huge faith in my life. If you want to call it the universe, whatever you want to call it, that's, you're not just, well, I think most people feel like there's something. We're not just flesh and bones, right? But it's all of those elements. It's mental, it's physical, and there's this bigger something element of it, right? So when you practice consistently over time, it doesn't mean it'll ever completely go away. The most successful people in this country deal with stinking thinking or bouts of depression or bad days. It happens. But the more you work on recognizing what it is and learning what to do about it, the stronger, the more powerful you become, and you realize how close your goals are. You reach your goals, and then you realize there's even bigger goals in front of you. Does that make sense? Love the thumbs up and the hearts if that makes sense. So my story. Sometimes there's this obvious stinking thinking, and then other times there's these what we call my story. And this is more of a recent concept that I've discovered through John Assaraf's program. He's a great person to look up in terms of all of this mental capacity and what we do to either, enhance ourselves to the next level or hold ourselves back. But he has a program called NeuroGym, and he talks about what's your story. So what's the story that you've been telling yourself? What's the story behind I can't? Why are you telling yourself that? What's the bigger source of that I can't? What made you feel like you couldn't in the first place? What affirmed that at some point in time? And when you start identifying your story, and that may go way back, and I'm not a psychotherapist, and I'm not trying to do that with you guys here, but I encourage you to consider that, because it is such a big part in truly being healthy and fit and truly living the fullest, most abundant life you can possibly have. You have to recognize your stories. The stories, the lies you've been telling yourself about why you can't, why you're different, why your situation is unique, why it's impossible for you to get to that point. What's the bigger story? Where did it come from? Because when you recognize that bigger story, when you recognize the source, you're going to have some amazing aha moments, because now you're an adult. And when you start processing it as an adult, you have different viewpoints than when you were a kid. You're going to naturally feel more powerful. You're going to be able to look at it as almost like a third person, especially when you write it out. John Assaraf, and I can't remember all of the doctors and neuroscientists on this program, but like the best of the best in neuroscience is in this training program. And they talk about one of the tools is when you write out what the story is that you've been telling yourself, whatever it was that really was kind of the source of a lot of the stinking thinking or whatever might be holding you back, and you write it out and you start looking at it, that actually helps your brain start to separate you from the event. And when you start to separate you from the event, you get a new level of being able to release it. I hope that makes sense to you guys. So I encourage you, write out those I am, write out those I wills, maybe entertain the fact that maybe there's a bigger story that you're telling yourself that's holding you back, and write that out as well. You don't even have to share it with anyone. It can be your own personal journal, and just really look at what it is and recognize it as just a lie that you've allowed yourself to tell yourself.